All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Horror Movie Yearbook. I'm Tim.
I'm Willie.
Willie, we're going to talk about the dead zone here today.
We are.
Yes. Have you ever been in a dead zone, like a cell phone?
I have.
Yes.
I have.
A lot of places where I grew up were dead zones when it came to cell phone service.
Yeah,
Yes.
I guess that makes... Yeah, okay. My when I used to spend time up at my grandparents in the UP, it was so hard to get a reception up there, like bad. You might be able to wander out to the road, and get hold your phone up maybe.
Yeah.
It was bad. It was hard. Yeah. And I didn't care about when I was up there. I enjoyed just spending time. I didn't care about goofing around on my phone.
Right.
It was just sometimes you want to be able to text somebody or call you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
so that was a bummer. And then the summer camp I was a counselor at. Yeah.
Dead zone.
We weren't supposed to have our phones out in front of the kids anyway.
Yes.
But at night when I was laying in the cabin and all these kids have fallen asleep, I'm I'm going to surf the internet for a little bit. Just on my phone, just goof around because I wasn't ready for bed. These little kids are all snoring. And I'd roll over and hold my phone next between the wall and the bed.
Yeah.
And, it would be spotty. So it's a struggle.
Yeah, it's got to be tough. You're not able to get Pornhub on the phone.
Yeah. God. Right. Yeah. At summer camp.
I wasn't talking about you. I was just talking about anybody in general who. These are the things you take for granted as a.
I know what happens to people that think bad thoughts at summer camps.
Oh yeah.
Doesn't end well.
It does not end.
I've seen enough movies to know.
But the dead zone is not about
summer camps or Pornhub.
Is Cell? I have not read Cell or seen Cell, the Stephen King movie. Is that about Pornhub and?
No, it's about cell phones.
And John Cusack, right?
Yeah, he's there.
Anyway,
Isn't Samuel L. Jackson in that one too?
I believe so.
My word.
I've not seen it. I've not read the book. I have not heard good things about either.
No. It's Stephen King doing zombies.
That's right. Cell phones, zombies, very topical.
Yeah. I don't think that's a great marriage, Stephen King and zombies.
No.
Doesn't feel right to me.
No.
Yeah.
That's his buddy Romero's turf. And he needs to back off.
Maybe he's just trying to pay tribute to the master. I don't know.
Hey,
anyway.
So I was surprised the other day when I checked the old podcast feed. Because you know what I saw?
What did you see?
Two maniacs, it looks like, have gotten back together again and are recording Westworld FM. And not because of the show, which I'm sure is delightful. I don't know. I've not seen it. But these two, good for them. Way to stick to it.
I mean, I'm impressed.
I think it was the founder and Nick. I think it was Alex and
I'm
Nick.
Impressed because these two guys just had babies.
Yeah.
Both of them.
That's yeah. But hey,
bless those boys.
Bless those boys, exactly.
Yeah.
And I know they love it. I know they love their Westworld. So check them out, Westworld FM. Yep. If you love Westworld, these are the guys for you.
Yeah. I think James Marsden's on the show still, which is nice.
Is he? I saw...
I like James Marsden.
Tessa Thompson's on there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the stars.
All the stars.
And the Game Nerds also just put out an episode too. So check out the Midwest Game Nerds and Westworld FM. But
welcome back. Welcome back, boys.
Welcome back. All right, let's get in this time machine. You ready?
Let's do it. What's a good dead zone sound? Oh, boy. I'm going to do my Martin Sheen. When he's holding a baby.
This is Sheen not in this very much, but man, does he make an impression.
He delivers.
Willie, did he remind you of anybody?
No.
So many articles now make sure to point out that maybe he reminded some people of a certain president.
No.
He's more of honestly, he's more of a Southern preacher type in this. He's kind of like a Jimmy Swagger. Is kind of who.
It's a little bit more. Yeah, it's a different presentation, but I can see why people perhaps would draw comparisons to
the Donald Trump.
Yeah, no, and look, there are similarities certainly in terms of quite a bit of a salesman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I think we could say that.
Yes, a populist.
Yes,
as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very much taking advantage of people's maybe their fear to use it for his own gain.
So there are similarities there, certainly. Yes.
So there you go.
Yep.
So we now that that's out of the way.
Yeah, I think we had
because
to
you have to mention it now. Even though
now you have to.
It was written in 79 and made in 83.
I know. Crazy.
This, yes, was released in 1983. So we're in the time machine. This bad boy. Let's pull up the IMDb deets here.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of King adaptations around this time, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was just after Cujo, which is weird because the book came out before Cujo. It led into Cujo, right? Because this was kind of the beginning of the Castle Rock stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
It is interesting that that's the case. I assume perhaps, if I had to guess, people might not quite have known what to do with the Dead Zone. Cujo's a pretty straightforward.
Yes, and there's some background on it, and we might get into it a little bit as we go through. But this went through many screenwriters. It went from Jeffrey Boehm, who ended up being credited with like the final version of it. Then it actually went to Stephen King for a little bit. Yeah. And the draft that King turned in, Dino said, no. I do not like this. This does not make any sense. Even Cronenberg, I can't remember his exact wording for it, but he basically said it was a little bit too harsh. It was a little bit too mean in some ways.
Okay.
So I'm curious. Yeah, I have not read that script. I'm curious what Cronenberg found objectionable about it.
Well, King was drinking quite a bit at this point in time, I believe.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so if you look at his output, from a writing standpoint, this is King during his meanest streak.
Right.
So it doesn't shock me that was said, just kind of knowing where he was at this point in time. We hadn't gotten to Cocaine King yet.
No, that would come in a couple of years, right?
Yeah, that would be the replacement for
the preferable.
Yeah, no, Cocaine King is the best. Sober King is great. Sober King is the best.
Yeah.
Sober anybody's the best.
Anybody's the best.
But no, in terms of like just sheer like, I'm not trying to make light of drug use, but in terms of sheer like creative output, I think the most interesting period of King's writing career tends to sync up with his cocaine.
No, but I'm glad you brought that up though. Like Sober King, to me, like I like a lot of Sober King's later work because of the fact that, as you mentioned, creatively, stuff like it feels like there are sections that are just rambling.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's kind of sometimes it's wonderful, and sometimes it's like, oh my god, let's Steve, let's come on, buddy.
It's his most interesting period, I think, in terms of what he was putting out there. I think his best writing has been the stuff he's done since. Like post-accident, post-Dreamcatcher.
Yeah.
Post-recovery.
Right.
From the accident. So, yeah.
I like a lot of that stuff. So
agreed. Yep.
But this is our summer of Cronenberg. Let's, the IMDb. So 1983, a man awakens from a coma to discover that he has a psychic ability. That's it. That's the description.
Oh, my.
So
okay.
Directed by David Cronenberg. Screenplay by Jeffrey Boehm. Now, Jeffrey Boehm. So he wrote The Lost Boys. He was credited as a screenplay.
What?
For The Lost Boys. He wrote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, The Phantom, Inner Space, and I'm blanking on a couple ones, but yeah, he was pretty.
I think I kind of like.
He's credited with a draft of Lethal Weapon, and then he also did the screenplays for Lethal Weapon 2 and 3. Were the ones I couldn't remember.
I like most of those movies.
Yeah. Bowman's, he's solid.
I'm a Last Crusade fan as well.
I like all of the Indiana Jones movies. All of them.
Okay. There he is.
But, I mean, there is one that is worse than the others.
Do you like The Adventures of Young Indiana Jones?
Not really, but it's been so long. Like, the only times I've sat down to watch it, it's been, like, the first episode I watched. I like the fact that they exist, and I thought it was a cool way to try to get kids hooked on history.
Yeah.
And...
yeah.
There you go.
Treasure hunting.
I like those kind of movies. I like the National Treasure movies too.
I dig stuff like that for sure.
Brooke Adams also in this. She was a bit of a scream queen in the early 80s. She was in the 1978 Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Mm-hmm. She was also in Shockwaves.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
And she would go on to star in another King movie, which was Sometimes They Come Back in the 90s. Yes. And some fun trivia. She is married to the great Tony Shalhoub.
Oh, my.
Yes.
How wonderful.
This also stars Tom Skerritt. You have a favorite Tom Skerritt performance?
Fuck Tom Skerritt.
Oh, that's right. You hate Tom Skerritt.
No, I don't hate
Do you want to re-explain that?
I guess. At some point in time during one of the stretches when my parents had cable, I stayed up late and watched the film Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy. I was going to mention that.
Starring Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
And
did you see the Poison Ivy, The New Seduction?
Is that the one with Jamie?
Is that Gertz?
Presley?
No. Oh, Jamie Presley. Yes, not Gertz. Yes.
I've seen that too. So I had a crush on Drew Barrymore. I think a lot of folks probably did. And there's reasons why somebody with a crush on Drew Barrymore would want to watch Poison Ivy. Well, part of the plot line of that is that she becomes kind of involved with Tom Skerritt. And I remember just like my prepubescent brain couldn't fathom how Drew Barrymore could like old Tom Skerritt. And I hated him. I had like a grudge. I was like, this chump. But I quite like Skerritt as an actor. I like to joke about fuck Tom Skerritt.
Well, you better be careful. He's born here. He went to Wayne State University.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I like Tom Skerritt.
He was also in the U.S. Air Force too. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Tom is, we'll talk about it, but vastly underutilized in this movie. Because he's a great actor.
That's kind of the thing about this movie too. Is like some characters kind of float in and out.
It is a weird narrative.
Yes,
it's a weird.
There are things I like about it, and we'll get into it. But
it's cool. But the structure of this plot is bizarro.
Yes,
and it does make for kind of a weird viewing experience because,
from what I recall, and it's been a while since I read the book, but it's a tough book to adapt to because it is episodic by nature.
It's a weird episodic thing. So, I can see why they did the TV series. I never watched it, but I can see why they thought that might.
It's a good hook for a TV series, and I think nowadays it would have gone straight to a TV adaptation. And because I think it would have focused mainly on the first half of this movie.
Yes.
Like if this movie were made today, it would just be the investigation into the Castle Rock killer. There would be nothing after that.
I think that you'd ditch the rest of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it were a TV show, like that would be
the last season,
the running plot line in the background.
Yeah. The grand. Yeah. I gotcha. Anyway, so no, Tom Skerritt's cool. Like Tom Skerritt. Sorry, Tom.
I'm sure he's listening.
Yeah.
He's a Detroiter. So the last person I want to mention here is Michael Kamen does the score.
Michael Kamen. Yes. So I love the score of this movie.
Cronenberg's usual collaborator, which is Howard Shore, but yes.
Yeah, love Howard Shore too. But this score is probably my favorite part of the movie beyond Walken's performance. The score rules. Like I really like the themes and stuff. Yeah. And I wound up kind of scrolling through Michael Kamen's IMDb because I'm like, God, I know he did X-Men.
So X-Men, I remember the commentary, just real quick, I remember the commentary for X-Men. I've always liked the first X-Men score, but it kind of fades in and out at times. But I've always kind of liked the main theme, and Bryan Singer on the commentary trashed it. I remember it being like one of the first times I heard like a filmmaker trash someone else's work, and I think it's because he didn't have Ottman too, which is John Ottman who ended up doing the second one, but yeah. Well,
and so, funny enough, Kamen reuses a bunch of stuff from Mr. Holland's opus in X-Men.
Maybe that's why I like it.
And I don't think that was like asked for.
Right.
I think that was him just going, eh. They won't notice.
He did some good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Too.
Yeah.
He did Event Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
He did the Lethal Weapon 4, I think he did. But he did Die Hard.
Which is a fantastic score.
But he was also the composer on S&M with Metallica, the Metallica orchestral album.
Yes.
So I like Michael Kamen.
That's a cool album.
It is. I like that album a lot.
Yep.
The Memory Remains, that version on that album.
Yeah.
Rocks.
It does.
Good.
That's a great album. Yeah. That might be the only Metallica album. Well, I bought a couple, but that was one of the only ones I ever bought on CD.
Okay.
As I remember thinking, like, this is the coolest idea ever. And I think a lot of people trash it, though, don't they?
So that came around the time, too, when Metallica, that was like post-Reload, and that was when
people were like, oh, they suck
They
now.
were very mainstream at the time, and it's also... I understand where people are coming from when they think it's kind of playing with an orchestra for a metal band is kind of, I don't know what the word they would use for it. The word that came to mind that they would use for it, and not what I would use for it, is soft.
Okay.
In some ways, I don't agree with that. I think it's one of the more metal things you can do.
It
is to play with a giant orchestra, especially a band like Metallica, who by that point had conquered They had conquered music. A metal band was like hitting #1 on mainstream charts. Like
I know,
bigger. Like what a baller ass move to play with an orchestra in your hometown of San Francisco.
So sweet.
Yes.
I almost wonder if like I wonder if it was ahead of like its time almost a little bit. Like,
yeah,
if it would be more appreciated now if they'd released it now. Then
I want to say it came around the time of that backlash to their Napster.
Yeah, and then nu metal was kind of taking over the metal scene too. So
I think all of those things kind of led to that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, do you want to give your thoughts before we jump into the plot here of The Dead Zone?
Yeah, I mean, look, The Dead Zone is not in my like top King stories by any means, of all time. Nor is this in my top King adaptations of all time. I think that it's an okay movie, and I hate to be that guy who's just like, it's okay, but there's nothing about the movie that for me stands out as particularly memorable, or either as a King adaptation or as a Cronenberg film. When I watch this, I don't go, wow, this feels like a Cronenberg film to me. There's nothing about it that really makes me... if I didn't know, I don't know that I would know. You know what I mean? I don't see his stamp on it. And I do think that the nature of the story... I think The Dead Zone, the way it's constructed... both in the book and the film, I think it really was always going to work better as a book. I think you would have to streamline and focus the plot on one of essentially the two halves of the Dead Zone story post coma. So you've got kind of that prologue, everything leading up to him in the accident, and then he wakes up from the coma, and you basically got two stories after that. And they're very divided. I mean, there's a little bit of like peppering things in for the second half of that with the Martin Sheen stuff. There's a little bit of that peppered into that first half of the story, but they feel very separate. I mean, to the point where like there's characters that are very present and active in the first half that like all but disappear in the back half. They feel like two completely... Like, one feels like a sequel to the other one, in a weird way. It feels like the follow-up, but they're all part of the same story. So, I think I would have liked this movie better if we had focused on one of those two things. As it is, it feels like two half movies, almost. And that's not the fault of... It's not the fault of Cronenberg. It's not the fault of King even, because to me that works as a book. But I do think it's the fault of not trying to be too beholden to the text as it was. I feel like I would have preferred them to focus on one aspect or the other, and I think that I would have enjoyed that movie more. But I do think it's got some solid performances. I do think Walken's quite good. I like watching some early Walken before he became like Christopher Walken. Yeah. Who we think of as almost like not a punchline now, but like he's like Christopher Walken. Like he's like Jeff Goldblum, right? Where like he's become a character unto himself at this point. So that's always fun to watch him. I think Martin Sheen's something else, man. He's a blast to watch in this. Sheen can go. When Sheen wants to go, he can go, man. Sheen's one of those guys, like, I feel like he's, considering the longevity of his career and, like, the insane stuff he's been involved with quality-wise, like, if you, like, film, like, from a film perspective, like, Apocalypse Now, that's like a classic, right? From a TV perspective, The West Wing is, like, regarded as one of the great, like, network TV shows of all time. Like, this guy's worked with everybody and done everything there is to do. He's still somehow like kind of underrated. Right. Isn't that weird?
Yes. He was just in that movie I just watched. He wasn't just in it, but he was it was on Joe Bob. It was on The Last Drive-In a month or two ago. The little girl who lives down the lane.
Yeah.
And he plays kind of like a creepy kind of pedophile, and he is so good as that character. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I just watched him in Badlands, which is an early God, why am I blanking on his name? Tree of Life.
Oh, Malick.
It's an early Malick film. And he's like phenomenal in that movie too. Like, he's so good, and but somehow he's like underrated. It's weird. Anyway, he's great, and the score's great, and there is a feeling throughout the movie. There's a dourness and a sadness and a melancholy that really does feel prevalent throughout the movie that I think is, by and large, Cronenberg's doing. It doesn't feel particularly Cronenberg to me in terms of the tone, but like he is able to keep this kind of constant feeling of like sadness throughout this movie, and then kind of acceptance of the misery of life, like a kind of like for this character. So yeah, I mean, it's by no means a bad movie. I do think that it is a weaker entry in both Cronenberg's filmography as well as, I think, a weaker entry in Studio King adaptations like movies.
Okay.
Yeah, it's certainly above some of the TV stuff, but yeah. So I think it's worth a watch. For me personally, I don't feel any sort of major need to ever rewatch it again.
Yeah.
So yeah. What about you, Tim?
I watched this movie, I think, last year. I just threw it on. I maybe even watched it prior to that when we did our King of Kings. Maybe that's what I'm thinking. Our King of Kings bracket. I needed a refresher on it. And I think you kind of touched on it too. It's two great tastes that taste like kind of fine together. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's good. I like it. So yeah, I just wish. Yeah, I like that it tries to capture the whole book. I just wish the Stilson stuff was introduced a little bit earlier on, like it is in the book when he's kicking dogs. Kicking dogs. So
being of a line.
Very, very much of a line. So do you want to get into this plot real quick?
Let's do it. Let's dig in.
Yeah.
It's a weird one to talk about.
It is. So I've got the trusty Wikipedia plot description, as always.
Excellent.
Here, and we're just going to stop after every paragraph and kind of fill in the blanks.
Sounds good.
So after having a headache following a ride on a roller coaster in Castle Rock, New Hampshire, schoolteacher Johnny Smith politely declines when his girlfriend Sarah asks if he wants to spend the night with her. As he drives home through stormy weather, he has a car accident that leaves him in a coma. Awakening under the care of neurologist Dr. Sam Weizak. He finds that 5 years have passed, and Sarah is now a married mother. Okay. So the changes from the book start here because of the movie. It's a roller coaster, and in the book, I think it's like a Wheel of Fortune game or something.
Yeah, the movie, the movie approach is certainly a more cinematic. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. It's a change that makes sense for film. So,
have you ever been on a roller coaster that has rattled your brain so much that you thought you had maybe precognitive abilities?
No, I don't think so. I think I've been on like a county fair ride that probably rattled my brain enough to make me think that.
Which
but like
one?
A legit roller coaster, they're pretty smooth.
Yeah, the wooden ones are tough. The Mean Streak at Cedar Point,
that is rough.
Used to be rough. That's the Steel Vengeance is what they replaced it with, and that one's all about. That one's nice and smooth because they put a metal track in now.
I don't think I got to do that one.
Did you not jump on that one?
No, that was the first one you guys went on, I think.
Okay.
When we went, and I think I felt like crap that morning, probably from drinking
what
the
we
night
were doing
before.
The night before, yes.
And so I was like, I don't know if I can handle roller coasters right now. And then I started jumping on them like halfway through the day when I had some lunch and I recovered a bit.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had Danny with me, my pal Danny.
Is it ever explained in the movie why they the only two people on the roller coaster? Like, does he know the person that runs it?
Nope. No,
okay.
We never get any of that. I guess it's just an off day. It's a slow day. Slow day at the old coasters.
Oh, what it is old Dino did not want to pay any extras.
Yeah, that's 100%. Dino. Yeah, he didn't want to pay any extras.
Up front, this is one more thing before we move on here. This is produced by Deborah Hill.
Yes,
from Halloween.
The late great
Deborah Hill. I'll refer to the Fangoria interview. There are 3 separate interviews, kind of features throughout the issues of Fangoria in 1983. But one of them is an interview with her. There's another one that's kind of an interview with Cronenberg as well. But she talks about how Cronenberg wasn't actually the first choice. They kind of wanted to get Walter Hill to direct this.
I could see that.
Yeah, he was doing 48 hours at the time. He's already committed.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, I think Walter Hill would have been a good choice. I mean, some similarities to Cronenberg and how they tell their stories.
I think Romero was attached to this at one point, too.
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Oh, I watched a little bit of The Dark Half today because I was...
Yeah.
There's a movie that doesn't need to be 2 hours long.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a while either.
I didn't finish it, but...
Might have to revisit.
I'll try to finish it by next week, maybe.
There you go.
Johnny discovers that he can now learn aspects of a person's life through physical contact. As he touches a nurse's hand, he sees her daughter trapped in a fire. He also sees Weizak's mother, long thought to have died during World War II. He sees that she's still alive and that a pushy reporter's sister killed herself. Johnny's mother has a heart attack and dies after Johnny visits her in the hospital. What do you think of the flashback sequences in this movie?
All this stuff works for me. I mean, this is kind of the classic setup to anytime you're telling a story about somebody with some sort of like psychic or precognitive abilities, is you have to have them have one or two moments of like proving to the world that they can do what they can do. And so these two instances work. I think that the sequence with the girl in the house is intense, and I think Walken sells it really well. And then I actually really like I almost get a little bummed that it doesn't go anywhere beyond what we get as a subplot, like the doctor and his mother stuff, because it kind of just ends there. Like there's not really anything. I feel like if you gave more time to this portion of the book in the film version, you could have maybe done something with that plot line just as like a subplot or whatever. But as it stands, this stuff works for me. I mean, I like the setup of what Johnny can do, and the fact that he figures out pretty quick what it is he's experiencing. He's not sitting there spending most of the story like trying to investigate what this means. He's like I can see the future, basically. Like I have precog, and he figures out very quickly, if I touch somebody, that's when it happens. So I love that, and I love the fact that even if not all of the other characters of the townspeople accept that he's like the real deal, I love that once again, we don't spend a large chunk of our story goofing around with the he's a phony and all that stuff. There's not a lot of that in this.
Right.
Yeah, it's touched upon, but it's not overly prevalent.
The other thing too is his mother is a bit more religious in the book as well. I think that's played up, and that's a very King thing to do.
Yes.
Is to play up the religious aspect. I don't necessarily think Cronenberg's as interested in that stuff. There is a picture of Jesus in the background. At one point, there's a picture of Jesus in the background. There's also an old sporting news magazine, which is why I can't have my phone on me during watching movies, because I spent 10 minutes. I had to pause the movie because I was looking at old sporting news. Sporting news was an old sports magazine that covered... my dad used to get it all the time, and it mainly focused on baseball. And they would have just pages and pages of stats and standings, and it was like a sports nerd's paper.
That's amazing.
And I was just looking through old archives trying to find old
That's
archives,
amazing.
because there was a sporting news in the background of one shot, and I went, I gotta pause this. I need to pay attention.
Isn't that funny?
Yes, it's so bad.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the difference of the book. The other thing too is Cronenberg. This is where I think his touches come in a little bit. He makes the whole movie like literally cold. Like it takes place very much in Cronenberg can be a little bit cold and clinical, and this movie is literally that, by taking place a lot of the time in winter, and a lot of the scenes take place in winter. And I think that's a nice touch. There are also a couple of nice shots of them kind of in the like the caves of Castle Rock during the investigations and stuff, that I think are from far away and make everybody feel kind of isolated and alone and stuff.
I think that's all those touches that add to what I was saying earlier, that there is kind of a through. There's very much a consistent feeling of, like I said, sadness and melancholy. And there's something about the winter that gives you the blues eventually, right? I think that people talk about the winter blues all the time, where like, once you're like post-Christmas and the excitement of the holidays is wrapped up, or post-holidays, I should say, and the excitement of that's wrapped up, and now you're just kind of tired of being shut up in your house and cold all the time.
Yes.
Like it hits all of us at some point, and that you kind of get that vibe all throughout the movie for sure.
As news of his gift spreads, Sheriff George Bannerman asks Johnny for help with a series of murders, but he wishes to be left alone. Sarah visits her infant son, and Johnny and she have sex. That they do. I love how sexy the Wikipedia descriptively they are. They have sex, though she declines a further relationship. Having a change of heart about the murders, Johnny agrees to help Bannerman, and through a vision at the crime scene, he discovers Bannerman's deputy, Frank Dodd, is the killer. Before they can arrest him, Dodd commits suicide in a very elaborate suicide.
In the most insane way possible. I mean, I know this guy's a crazy person.
Right.
And he's murdering people, but like...
He's in a bathtub, correct?
Yeah.
And he sets up a pair of scissors underneath.
Which is his method, which is his I guess, tool of choice when it comes to his killings.
Right.
But, like, yeah, what does he do? He sets it on the toilet?
Yeah, and he kind of, like, brings his head down onto them.
Slams his head. It's so weird.
Dodd's mother shoots Johnny before being killed by Bannerman. Okay. Yeah, I think the sex scene is different in the book, too. Yeah, in the movie, they just kind of have sex.
Yeah, the kid falls asleep, and they're like, you want to? Okay.
And she moved out of it. Like, it's not really touched on after that.
No, not really.
So the sex scene plays a little bit differently in the book. Cronenberg's mostly interested in sex with television sets, as we've established.
Yep, or with your own chest.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like it's funny because at first I'm like, ew, this is icky because like she's married and her kid's sleeping in like the next room, and here she is. But then I'm like, she like loved this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, who am I to say that that's not a natural thing for her to want to like? And she doesn't she never once like gives him the inclination that it's going to be anything more than just like them being able to like let that out.
Yes.
That you know.
And I recall correctly, and it's been a while, I believe the book is a little bit more dramatic in its retelling and a little bit more, maybe even soap opera-ish, melodramatic is the word
King?
for it. Just a bit. It also probably has plenty of descriptions of boners.
Engorged things. Things that are engorged
Stephen King boners, I can't remember. It's not Reddit. It's the other one that I'm blanking on right now. I can't remember what the website.
He likes to describe boners.
I think you can just type in Stephen King boners. Do it on Google and
see what happens.
Thank me later. Yeah, see what you get.
Turn safe search off and see what happens.
This is Bo. I'm talking about books and the difference between books and movies. Books are descriptive and expository. A screenplay has to be dramatic. And in transitioning a book to the screen, you have to think of ways to dramatize these things. King gives us a big clinical history of Dodd and how he suffered at his mother's hands. I think that in the movie, that's adequately handled when Johnny goes to Dodd's house and we see what his mother is like, and we see his bedroom, which is furnished like a child's room. So with a rocking horse, a big Raggedy Ann, this explains perfectly what Dodd's problem is. You needn't to go any more into it than that. So that's kind of some of the visual stuff they are able to do that I think gets across what King does in the book through pages and pages of exposition. And that's part of the difference between a movie and a book, and you don't want that in a movie.
Yeah, and I mean, it works for me. I can't sit here and tell you I thought overly hard about Frank Dodd's relationship with his mother at any point during this movie. I just thought, okay, Dodd's the serial killer and he's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like there was never but if I had maybe noticed more of that background stuff, I mean, you can't sit there and this story is not about Frank Dodd. Once again, if this was something where they decided they wanted to focus more on this portion of the story, sure, you could flesh that out a bit. You might be able to dig a little bit into Frank Dodd's backstory, so on and so forth, but we don't need any of that. And you do get the vibe that his mother's not exactly a well-adjusted person herself. So
this is also the introduction of Castle Rock, which plays a big role in King's career.
Major,
so, yeah. I just wanted to touch on that. Did you ever watch the second season of Castle Rock?
I've not.
It gets stupid and nuts, and I kind of loved how stupid it was, but it made no sense, and it was always still kind of boring.
Yeah, I remember you telling me like, if you got nothing better to watch at the moment, it's not a bad idea to maybe just give it a look. But I remember you also saying like, there's other things to watch. It's best appreciated. There are so many things to watch. I wouldn't put Castle Rock at the top of the list. Yeah.
But the wackiness of the whole thing was appreciated.
Yeah, We won't talk about cast.
It's been a while, yeah, because I couldn't even recall. Annie Wilkes shows up, if I recall.
Oh, my word.
Hey, it's better than The Stand. Disillusioned and barely able to...
I haven't seen The Stand.
Oh, boy.
It's bad, right?
Oh, boy. There are moments...
How did that happen?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like this should have worked. The cast is great. It just made sense, right? Like they were willing to make changes to make it more palatable as like a story.
They make some other changes, though. I just don't think. I don't think sometimes with King, I don't think it works if it's not on the page or if you don't go all in. And there are some compromises made.
Okay.
In The Stand. So.
I've seen the YouTube clips of the Trash Can Man.
Oh yes,
and it's something.
God. Let's move on.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that person.
Disillusioned and barely able to walk, Johnny moves away and attempts to live a more isolated life. He tutors children, working from home, until a wealthy man named Roger Stewart implores him to come visit and tutor his son, Chris. They form a friendship, but Johnny soon receives a vision of Chris and two other boys drowning in a local pond during an ice hockey game that Stewart was going to coach. He implores Stewart to change his plans, but he refuses. Do you know how hard it is for me not to make Christopher Walken finally saved someone from drowning joke?
Jeez. I always forget about that.
But I did it anyway.
My word.
But hopefully this podcast didn't record, so people don't hear that. He smashes a vase with his cane to make his point and is fired. Despite his father's skepticism, Chris believes Johnny and stays home. However, the other two boys drown, greatly shocking Stewart. Johnny realizes he has a dead zone in his visions where the future is changeable. So the hockey scene is also changed here. The hockey scene revolves around Johnny in the book as a kid. This one, they make it so he saves someone that's about to go
it becomes part of
hockey.
his,
Yes.
Which is fine. That's a fine change.
I think dead zones are presented differently in the book.
Yes.
And
it's explained a little better in the book, I think, or at least it's broken down a little bit more.
Right.
I never quite walk away from the movie going like, I get what they mean by the dead zone, like why they call it the dead zone. I still don't understand the name.
Yeah.
I'm like, why does they call it dead? Anyway, maybe that's just me, but I like all the stuff with Johnny getting back into teaching because I like the character trying to get back to some semblance of a normal life.
Yes.
I like that. What I will say though is this section of the movie is kind of boring. Like,
for sure.
Being honest, like I like the character stuff, but like I get a little bit like, what are we doing?
It's weird to go from catching the excitement of catching a serial killer to tutoring kids.
There's like a climax to the everything we've seen from him before the accident all the way to him catching Frank Dodd. There's like it's like a natural story that kind of has a climax and a resolution and falling action and stuff. And now all of a sudden we're tutoring,
right? And
so you kind of go, we got a long way to go here in this movie. What are we doing?
Yes. And we still haven't met Stilson.
No. I think we see him briefly.
Yeah, we do see him briefly. This is around where we're introduced. It's about an hour in now.
Yeah. And so it's kind of weird because it's I don't know. It's funny enough. I have kind of the same issue with Scanners a little bit, where like that middle portion, like I don't dislike anything that's happening, but I'm sitting there like, what are we doing?
Cronenberg's making comic book movies at this point, right? I mean, this is a comic book movie. He's got X-Men powers, and Scanners is X-Men. Scanners is an X-Men movie.
Yes.
Yeah. So Cronenberg is essentially making comic book movies at this point.
That's what I'm saying. I think I mentioned this before on the Scanners episode, or no, on the Videodrome episode. I want the Cronenberg Smash Bros game.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Team up all of his weirdly powered characters and put them on some sort of like fighting force, the Cronenberg force or something. I don't know.
Real quick, I do want to actually talk about Walken's performance here because I think we've talked about King main characters before, and they can be conduits. They can be a little bit dull, a little bit bland. And Johnny Smith, that's his name, right?
Yep.
This is John Smith, which is quite the creative name.
Yeah,
but I think that might be by design. But he is a bit bland as a character. He's like a kind of a boring teacher. But Walken is like, I know he's not full on Walken, but he's still Walken. So everything he does is interesting.
Yes.
And kind of eccentric and weird.
Yes.
And his haircut as a teacher is phenomenal.
It's amazing. It's incredible.
And then he goes into full Christopher Walken hair in the second half, where it's like kind of.
He's got like Max Shrek.
Max Shrek hair.
Yeah, no, because see, that's the thing is like King characters, especially when they're adapted to screen, tend to come off as vanilla.
Yeah.
They're just so like they're like the most bland, just kind of. And
he gets knocked for that sometimes. I sometimes think it works in the favor of the story he's telling.
It depends on the story, and
Yes.
I think in most cases it does work.
Yes.
I think for the most part, the characters in the stories where they shouldn't be, where the lead needs to be more than vanilla. I think he generally writes those characters. I mean, like look at like the Dark Tower, which is a very different beast, certainly from most of his work. But like Roland is not bland. There's nothing bland about that character. So it's not that he doesn't know how to write a protagonist that's interesting and different and exciting. But like I think because you've got an actor who is the caliber of Walken, and I'm not knocking other guys that have played King protagonists. I'm not knocking Dale Midkiff of Pet Sematary fame. But
forgot his name.
Well, yeah, thank you.
I only remember Denise Crosby and what's my man's name? The little guy?
Miko Hughes, baby.
Yeah.
But I'm not knocking him or anybody else. But like,
do you remember the Pet Sematary remake that just came out?
Oh my god.
Sorry, continue. You're not knocking him, but
yeah, but like, it does. You do need an actor, I think, like Walken to add a layer of like interest to these kind of bland, semi-boring
right
white men that
yes.
are doing things. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like sometimes it works in his favor in just the sense that all this crazy things are happening, so it's kind of nice to have someone to be as an anchor. But sometimes it's not bad to have someone like Walken who can bring a little something extra, and he does. He's very good in this.
Yes.
Johnny attends a rally for Greg Stilson, a superficially charismatic third-party candidate for the United States Senate, for whom Sarah and her husband volunteer. Johnny shakes Stilson's hand, revealing Stilson as a ruthless demagogue who, as president, orders what appears to be a preemptive nuclear strike. Johnny seeks out Weizak's advice, asking, for instance, if he would have killed Adolf Hitler if he had the chance knowing beforehand the atrocities Hitler would commit. Weizak replies that he would have had no choice but to kill him. Johnny leaves Sarah a letter telling her that he is about to do what will cost him his life, but it is a worthwhile sacrifice. So, we've discussed Stilson and who he reminds us of.
Yes.
Stilson in the book, we've talked a little bit about. He is very much a mustache twirler.
Big time.
I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Sure.
There's a hot take. Would you kill Hitler as a baby?
Oh my God. It's one of the age-old questions, right?
Yes.
I don't know. I guess I don't know because
I'm going to put this out there right now. He would be much easier to kill as a baby than he would as as a grown man. So I would definitely take my shot.
I think he was kind of a dweeb though. Like when he was an adult.
Yeah.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
He was good at riling people up, and that's about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because the thing is, when you do that, like, is it like a butterfly effect situation? Like, if you do that,
does someone
somehow even worse,
right.
Which is hard to imagine. But like, what do you create? I don't know.
Right.
Got to think about that one. I don't know what the answer is for me.
No, I'm Team Weizak here. You got to get that. I wouldn't brutally murder baby Hitler. I'd slip a little poison in the bottle.
Or what if you didn't have to kill baby Hitler? What if you could take baby Hitler out of his environment and
you're trying to so this is a kind of a nature versus nurture thing. You think you can kidnap baby Hitler
and raise him to not be
Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Try to make him not that
I'm a little bit
guy.
More cold than
or
you
maybe
are.
He is destined to be that. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess it kind of comes down to what do you believe, whether it's
right.
It's Hitler's nature that he's just going to grow up to be Hitler no matter what.
I think there's always a little bit of both, right?
Okay.
Not always, but generally.
Yeah.
Because I think somebody like him always has the potential to be that person.
Right.
But I think certain events have to occur in order to get that potential to come out.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. Like it's in his. Yeah, it's ingrained in him.
There's definitely a part of that person that was very dark and had the potential to do horrible things. But does that mean that in a different circumstance or under different circumstances that may not have been activated in him? I don't know. Right. So that's a tough one. I don't know what my answer is. I guess if I could guarantee that doing that would not, like, if somehow I could guarantee that if there was no guarantee that it would like truly positively affect, like, that, or I should say it would positively affect it in a lot of ways, but like that it wouldn't like
make
create an even worse future
timeline,
somehow, then I would do it. I think I would do it.
Okay.
But I'd have to know that.
So your holdup isn't necessarily with killing a baby. It is.
No, if it I don't want to do that either, but like if I have to.
Right.
I mean, if that's what it would take, I guess, I would do it.
But
I'd be really concerned about like what could happen because of that. What is the chain reaction there?
So it may be like you're screwing with like a okay, I see what you're saying.
That's a scary
screwing
thought.
with the timeline, and you can make it into something worse. Yeah, that is a scary thought. But that's why we pose these questions here.
I know they're interesting questions to pose.
Horror movie yearbook, yes.
So.
And I believe that is kind of what King grapples with in the book as well. Like that's a big hang up. And as I'm sure King goes into great detail on that. Johnny loads a rifle and takes aim at Stilson at a rally with Sarah in the audience. His shot misses the target, but Stilson grabs Sarah's body and holds him as a Sarah's baby, and holds him as a human shield.
It is so ridiculous.
I love this part so much.
Shoot this kid! It's so funny.
Johnny refuses to risk hitting the
He grabs
boy.
the worst possible human shield, by the way.
Yeah,
the tiny baby.
Yeah, you can aim around that baby. I'm just gonna say, especially if you've got like a rifle, like he does.
Yeah, why didn't he like grab a grown person?
Yeah, if Johnny's any sort of a shot with a rifle, he can.
So ridiculous.
He can maneuver around this small child. Johnny refuses to risk hitting the boy. A photographer snaps a picture of Stilson holding the baby. Sarah retrieves her baby, but before Johnny attempts to fire again, he is shot by Stilson's bodyguard. Confronted by Stilson, Johnny grabs his hand and foresees Stilson's reputation and political ambitions tarnished. After the photograph of his cowardly act is published, Stilson will commit suicide. Johnny lies dying. Satisfied that a nuclear holocaust has been averted, Sarah embraces Johnny and tells him as he dies that she loves him. So, the ending here. Because this movie introduces Stilson so late in the game, I think either inadvertently or maybe on purpose, it kind of calls into question, for me at least, because we don't know who Stilson is like we do in the book. Mm-hmm. Like he's just a rotten to the core evil person. We kind of have to take Johnny's word and Johnny's visions
as gospel.
So
I do find it harder to digest. There's almost an element of like, as crappy of a human being as Stilson is, you almost feel a little bad that now his fate is going to be like.
Right.
I mean, like now in the book, he's like. So bad that you're like, yeah, get him, Johnny. But yeah.
I mean, the holding up of the baby thing is rough.
It's pretty bad.
It's pretty brutal, but I see what you're saying.
But I want him to? I don't know.
But like, we have to take Johnny's word that these visions are what's going to happen, and that he is going to essentially cause a nuclear holocaust. Not essentially, he is going to cause a nuclear holocaust. So we have to go along with it, and it kind of asks that question: like, are political assassinations ever okay?
Right.
And this movie seems to say. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, sure, it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. They're like, yeah, sure, okay.
No questions asked. So,
yeah, they take a pretty hard stance on that one.
They do. And hey, I mean, like we said, hey, that's the movie's prerogative. That's the filmmaker's prerogative. Yep. Go ahead and put it out there. Sheen didn't actually want to take the role. He was worried about how despicable the character was, I think, in the book. And also, he was just kind of coming off of he was really at a hold up with the holding a child in front of him scene. Like when he got to it, he talked about Apocalypse Now and how he had gone to see the movie in San Francisco, and the part where he kills a bunch of people when he's approaching the encampment with Brando's encampment, like the crowd like turned on him and started booing, and like that affected him, which is kind of a weird thing for an actor. Like
it is, right?
Yes. It essentially got the desired reaction from like. So, interesting. I don't know. And so it really hurt him.
He just wanted to be loved.
He just wanted to be loved as his character. So yeah, I don't know. There were different screenplays. I think it's the most mainstream of Cronenberg's early work so far, I would say. I would say even more. I think Scanners kind of skirts there. I don't think Videodrome is mainstream.
No.
In fact, I'm reading these Fangorias as we go along, and the reaction to Videodrome is hilarious because it's almost like, I would compare it to almost like A24 or like elevated horror fans.
I would see that.
At the time, where like a lot of kind of like the mainstream kind of like blood and guts horror fans didn't like.
What is this trash? What is this artsy crap?
Didn't seem to like it. And then like some guy writes it in this episode, and let me read this. Okay. I have to read this Videodrome because I think it ties into what I'm talking about with how it's a little bit more mainstream, and that may have been kind of a reaction to some of the Videodrome reaction. So let me find this letter because it's very funny, and it's a letter written into Fangoria. All right, the guy who liked Videodrome. Here's what he says at the end, because this cracks me up. He basically calls anybody who didn't like Videodrome like a moron. And here's the last paragraph. Jim Clark, and he includes his address, and I'm going to say, he says, "Please leave my address on this letter if you print it. I'd like to correspond with anyone, whether they be someone who agrees with my opinions or they be some morons wishing to defend themselves." Oh, he says himself even too, so he's disqualifying any female who might look this guy.
Bro,
Jim Clark, you went hard in this.
Real hard.
Yeah, but it's kind of similar to kind of what we see online today, which is like there are different kinds of horror fans, and one section likes one thing, one section likes the other.
Oh, for sure.
And they are always ready to throw down.
Yep, it's true. It's very true.
Any final thoughts?
No. I mean, like I said, it's worth a watch. I don't think that. I think you can find better instances of Cronenberg and King. So I think
for sure
it shouldn't be first on your list on either list, but that doesn't mean it's by any means a bad movie. And I think that there's certainly things to enjoy about it. So. Yeah.
Cool. I agree. It's on HBO Max now. You can rent it. Check it out.
Yep.
I think it's anyway, we're going to do The Fly next.
Yeah.
We're working through our summer of Cronenberg here. We've got a couple more left, The Fly and Dead Ringers, but The Fly's next, and this is the one I've been looking forward to.
Oh, of course. I love The Fly. It's been a while. Haven't seen it in a bit. Always love to revisit it. Definitely excited to revisit it again. Yeah, can't wait. What a film. And I don't think you and I have ever really talked about The Fly in any major detail together.
This is my favorite Cronenberg movie, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is for me, too. What is this on? What is The Fly available on?
An excellent question.
Just so we can make sure everybody's aware of... I mean, it can be rented on Amazon, I can tell you that.
Yeah, it looks like we got a rental here.
Yep, so this one's going to cost you a couple bucks, but it's worth it.
It's worth it.
Oh God, I scrolled down. It just says, like on Google, the cast. You got Goldblum first, and then sandwiched in between Goldblum and Gina Davis is David Cronenberg as gynecologist.
What a picture! You know what? Him and Goldblum in these Google pictures look very much alike. They're wearing the same glasses.
My word, it's wonderful.
Fantastic.
You ever seen The Fly 2?
No, you know what? I have not.
I haven't either.
I have not.
Wait to watch that for.
Is that Stoll's?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is like a sequel to Cronenberg's, like actually he plays.
Gina Davis is in it.
Is she?
Wait. I clicked on The Fly. Whoops. Yeah. No, she's not. So yeah, that's
okay.
Stoll's, right? Okay. The Fly too.
Okay. There's another actress that's filling in for Gina Davis in the
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's what we're going to do next time. horrormovieyearbook@gmail.com, at HM Yearbook, Horror Movie Yearbook on Facebook, Instagram. Check us out on YouTube, Horror Movie Yearbook, if that's your preferred. If you got YouTube Premium, I just found out you can, how you sometimes you have YouTube on the phone, and you close it down, you close your phone down, and you can't hear the audio anymore. Well, guess I'm shilling for YouTube Premium now, but it's a way you listen to our podcast too, because if you get YouTube Premium, there's a free trial out there. You can click it off. You can click your phone screen off and still listen.
Mm-hmm.
to the audio. So if that is your preferred method, if you have YouTube Premium, check us out on YouTube. I upload the episodes there as well. So we upload the episodes, I'll say. So very cool.
Excellent.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Stay safe out there.